All right. I believe we're live. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michiels. You're joined with special guest tonight, Russman, Phil Russman, the champion of paragliding. He hates when I puff him up. He's one of the best pilots I know, and he's also a paramotor instructor, free flight instructor. He's been flying all kinds of things from hang gliders. He flies helicopters, from what I heard, fixed wing aircraft. He's just got an incredible wealth of knowledge when it comes to staying in the sport and staying safe. And so it's a privilege to have him on. You're also joined by Larry from Orange Products. Larry is with us, and Sean is moderating as well. Sean, he doesn't have a website, but he needs one. And I put some links in the description for some of the websites that we have that we're going to talk about tonight. One of those is Light Touch Films, and that's Phil Russman's website with all kinds of great stuff for all your flying needs. You need to make sure that you go and check those out. Check that website out, and take a peek at the links in the description. This show is brought to you by a whole bunch of different people, and I'm going to share real quick the sponsors for the show. And I do want to say I really appreciate all the sponsors, the guys that have been supporting the show from the beginning. We've got just a great team of people for paraglidingtalk.com. One of those is Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden and his team are training people there in Nebraska. So if you're interested in getting some training and you're in that area, reach out to Josh Bowden. There's a link in the description to get a hold of him. Also, the show is sponsored by Resurgence PPG. Check out resurgenceppg.com. And I want to encourage you to donate to them. They support our veterans and get those guys into powered paragliding. Some of them are dealing with PTSD, and it's a great outlet for them. It's a great organization, and it's 501c3, so it's tax deductible. Also, want to encourage you to check out flymyppg.com. If you're in the Michigan area and you're interested in powered paragliding, you can reach out to Mike Cotter and the guys there at flymyppg.com, link in the description. Show is also brought to you by Orange Products, paraorangeproducts.com. Larry and his group has all kinds of great stuff. Go to his website, paraorangeproducts.com. If you want to take care of your gear. He also sells some great equipment and all kinds of safety stuff. He sells wings. There's motors and all kinds of good stuff in there. So, and you can ask him questions in the comments if you're logging in and watching live while we're on the show. Larry will answer your questions in the chat. Show is also brought to you by ppgsmoke.com. And Ryan Roberts has all kinds of great stuff that he's literally engineering for us as we speak. He's got all kinds of stuff going. He donated a bunch of equipment to the show, and so tonight we're going to give away some paragliding stuff or paramotoring stuff. ppgsmoke.com is where you can find all those details. And if you're interested in getting your name in the hat to win a smoke machine, chase cam, lamels, float system, or even the strobe system, you can get your name in there by going to paraglidingtalk.com/contest. Show is also brought to you by Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, you can reach out to Brandon McCloud on Facebook. Tri-State Skywalkers Flying Club aims to help the locals with friendship and organization. If you're interested in starting a club, it'd be a great idea to reach out to Brandon McCloud. Show is brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, no better place to get proper training than iflyindiana.com. And Kevin and his team, they will get your feet off the ground. Get your feet off the ground. iflyindiana.com is the website. And these guys each month pay a nominal fee to advertise on the program. If you're interested in advertising on the program, reach out to me through the website, paraglidingtalk.com, and then take a look at the sponsors page. So excited tonight to have Phil Russman on the show. This guy's hard to nail down, by the way, if you guys don't know, because he's a busy guy. And I know it took a lot for him to come and join us tonight. So I want to encourage you, if you've got questions, and if you don't know who Phil Russman is, he he has he had a huge plane. He won't accept responsibility, but he had a huge part in the PBG Bible. His picture is actually on the back of the Bible itself. At I think he was on the front at one point. He took I don't know how many pictures. When you go to Torrey Pines and you take the test to be able to fly there, it's him. It's his narration. When I got my sign up over there and I had to do the little video. It's his voice. I'm like, wait, that's Russman. And it's all, anyways. He's a local legend. So it's a privilege that we have him on. And thank you, Russman, for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
It's great fun, man.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit before the show, and I'm going to pull up the chat now. I was literally working right to the last second here. There were some topics that we discussed, and one of those was safety, and the other one was we were talking about transferring from powered paragliding to free flight. Something that I hear a lot is guys that are in powered paragliding say, "Oh my gosh, Robert, I see your videos and I just love the idea and how quiet it is, and it just looks so fun, and I want to do it," and they don't know really where to start. And so maybe take us through what your suggestions, and let's open up the conversation about a transition from powered paragliding to free flight paragliding.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, the first question, I guess, to ask is this something that interests you? You know, it's you see people paragliding and it looks like fun, but is it going to work for you? Is it going to work for your lifestyle? Now, if you live in Kansas, there aren't a lot of mountains there to jump off. There's maybe a freeway overpass, and that's about it. So, but what might interest you to know is that there's a lot of really great flatland flying out there, and all over the Midwest. More and more people are getting tow rigs and getting into towing and knocking out 100 mile plus flights on a regular basis. And just to be clear, that is without the motor. So you tow up to about 1,500 feet, you release, thermal up, and go on glide, thermal up, go on glide. And you do that all day till sunset until you've flown 50, 100, 150 miles. It's amazing. So you can paraglide if you live in the flatlands. Was somebody going to ask something?
No, that was my computer and just decided to make some noise.
Okay. But of course, everybody dreams about flying in the mountains, and if you happen to live near the mountains, then that's really fantastic. You can do some flying in the mountains, and there's also the opportunity, if you have the time and money, to travel all around the world. It's really easy to travel with these with these rigs because you just check it as baggage, and away you go. So it's a great way to just see the world by air. And you're also going to meet a whole different group of people and make new friends. And so it's going to expand your community. You're going to learn more about flying, and it's going to help you with your powered paragliding. So, but is it right for you? Do you have the time? Do you have the money? Well, let's talk about, first of all, before we figure out where we're going to go learn this, let's just talk about what you do need to learn, okay, in order to paraglide. Let's say you're a competent paramotor pilot. You can launch and land no problem. You're reasonably good at landing in a spot when you kill the motor, and you're a pretty good ground handler. Well, what you have to learn are a few things, and one of the big things you have to learn is a slightly different way to ground handle. There's some different techniques like leaning forward versus standing straight up and stuff like that, and you want to learn those, and you want to get them right. And actually, they're kind of easy, but especially because you don't have the motor. You're not running around with a motor on your back, but the accuracy required for powered paragliding, for paragliding is greater than for powered paragliding. With powered paragliding, if you're running along the ground, you trip, fall down, well, you pick yourself back up and dust yourself off and go try it again. In paragliding, if you make a mistake, you may be launching off a steep mountain, and it doesn't take long before you could be quite a ways from the ground. And so you want to get it right. So again, the launch and the ground handling is easier, but the accuracy required is greater. So you want to get it right. And I've done a lot of transitions in my time in both directions, for powered paragliding to paragliding and the other direction. And typically what I do for local pilots anyway is I get together with them and I assess their ground handling ability. And then I show them a few things for a few hours, and then I cut them loose and let them go home and practice. If they're local, and if you have a local instructor, you can do that. And then you can go and practice these techniques and really get them down and improve your accuracy, so that when it comes time to go out to the hill, you'll be that much more ready. Flying, once you get in the air, it's going to be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It's going to feel very natural. It's going to feel wonderful. You're going to be more leaned back than sitting up. So that's going to be a little bit weird, but it's a very glorious feeling. And again, it's kind of easy to just get in the air and launch off the hill once you learn a few little tricks. It's also easy to get yourself in trouble, because very, very quickly your skill will surpass your knowledge. So there's some things you need to know. And you're going to want to pick up a book called The Art of Paragliding.
Ooh.
And that book, you've read that, right?
I have not, actually. I need that book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The Art of Paragliding. It's a great book, to read through, and you don't want, obviously it's way too technical to sit and read it through. It's not like a novel. It's a lot to absorb. So you want to kind of take little bites out of it and read it over time, but there's a lot of great knowledge in there, and a lot of great knowledge that's important to keep you safe. And another difference between paragliding and powered paragliding is that when you get in the air, you're going to be using a lot more weight shift, because you're leaning back, because you're more leaning back like this. You have the ability to weight shift a lot more, and using more weight shift than brake is going to be more efficient. And you want to be efficient because you don't have a motor. You're gliding, or if you're flying in lift, you've only got a certain amount of lift. So the only thing keeping you up is the rising air. So you want to be more efficient. So you're going to be doing a lot more weight shift. And then as far as what's going to keep you in the air, that's going to be two categories of lift. It's going to be ridge lift, and it's going to be thermals. Ridge lift, as I'm sure most of you know all this stuff, but I'm just going to go over it. Ridge lift, air comes in, bounces off some mountain or some ridge, goes up, and you fly along back and forth along that ridge, and you stay up as long as the wind blows. And then thermals are when the sun heats the ground heats the air, and you get these big bubbles that break off and go up and turn into these columns of rising air, and you turn around and around and around in these things, and you go up until they stop going up, and then you start gliding and looking for the next one. So that's the difference between thermal flying and ridge lift. And one thing that is going to be a little unsettling with thermals is, in Risk and Reward and PPG Bible and in many other places, your instructor and what have you, we've all told you, don't be flying in the middle of the day because there's thermals. Well, now I'm telling you to fly in thermals. Well, paragliding is basically, we wait till the middle of the day and we fly in thermals, at least once we get the experience and the ability handle the wing in the rising air, in the thermals. So what will happen is you'll start off in glassy conditions at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, and then you'll start sneaking into the bigger air, like taking off a little bit earlier in the afternoon. Instead of 5, you take off at 4:30, and you start experiencing some bumps. And at first it'll be a little unsettling. You'll go, oh my God, this is terrible. And because you're just not used to it, and the gear that you've been doing it with, like your paramotor, for example, is not appropriate for flying in thermals. So I'm a very experienced paraglider pilot. I fly in a very, very high level wing and the biggest air there is. And I would not go up in the middle of the day in a paramotor on even the mellowest wing, because it's really dangerous. Especially if once you get close to the ground where the thermals are really gnarly. So paragliding and powered paragliding, middle of the day, different animal. And you can do it in paragliding, but you're going to have to step into it slowly and build up your bump tolerance and your experience and your ability to do what we call active piloting, which is controlling the wing and stopping it from surging back and forth and side to side by leading with the brakes, so that you keep the wing right overhead. Otherwise, if you just let go of the brakes or don't do anything and the wing surges, it'll just keep going, and then it could collapse. And then that's mostly just going to scare you, hopefully, because it should open right back up with these nice A and B wings. But it's something that we want to avoid. So let's see now. So that's what you're going to need to learn, basically. And then let's talk about the equipment. And everybody wants to talk about equipment. It's one of our favorite topics. And the first thing that you need to think about is my wing appropriate for paragliding? So let's get specific here about these reflex wings, because a lot of the manufacturers will say, oh yeah, you can paraglide with them. And you can, if there's a velociraptor chasing you and you need to get off the mountain, and there's no other choice. But you're not, other than like a little bit of ridge lift and some sled rise, you're not going to want to use these reflex wings for paragliding. If you're serious about paragliding, you're going to want to get a traditional non-reflex paraglider wing. And there's plenty to choose from. One thing that's good to know is that your motor wing actually may be a traditional paraglider wing. Like, let's just take the Ozone Mojo, for example. They've got the Mojo and the Power Mojo, and the only difference between those wings essentially is the risers. So you've already got a traditional paraglider that's perfect for paragliding. And there are other manufacturers that do the same thing. They rebrand their paragliders, their traditional paragliders, so that they look like paramotor wings and put motorizers on them. So you need to, if you don't know, ask your instructor, your paramotor instructor, or you'll eventually get hooked up with a paragliding instructor, and you can ask him. So that's the wing, and there's a lot of nuances in terms of picking the right size and what rating to go for. You're going to want something safe, but I don't think we're going to delve too much into that right now. Let's jump to the harness. Let's talk about the harness. You're going to want, you don't want to get a pod with a big fairing. You don't want to start there.
Wait, but I did.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
I had a Gin Genie 2.
And you want to start with something that's easy, an easy beginner harness with back protection and a reserve container. Not a ground handling harness, okay, with no back protection and no reserve container. Because for sure you're going to need a reserve. a lot of people out there flying paramotors out there without reserves. That's all right. Well, that's one thing. But if you're going to paraglide, you're going to fly with a reserve, because it's just a different ball game. It's more likely that you'll need it, and we're not worried about weight, because we really don't have that much weight to launch with. So throwing a 1 kilogram or 1.5 kilogram reserve in your harness is not gonna change your life that much, other than your pocketbook. So you're gonna want to reserve. You're also gonna want to know how to throw that reserve if you don't already. And back protection. Pretty much all the beginner harnesses these days are mostly airbags. There are some with cushions, and there are some with combos, but you're going to want something that's not too lean back, something that's reasonably upright. A lot of great harnesses out there. Be careful about buying used ones, and make sure that you get one that's the right size, because that's really important. You want to get one that's the right size. So it's really nice if you can actually get in it and hang in it before you buy it or have the opportunity to return it. And then you're going to need, eventually, if you stay with the sport, you're going to need a Vario. There's a lot of Varios out there, and you can find some used ones on the site. I sell, and a lot of people sell, the Ascent Vario, because it's a little wrist-mounted Vario that you can wear whether you're paragliding or paramotoring. Very convenient. Don't need a cockpit. Don't need to mount it anywhere. However, there's also this thing called the XC Tracer, which is kind of taking the market by storm, and it is something that you might want to look up on the internet, XC Tracer, and just kind of check out what that is. That is basically where it seems like the Varios are going now. It's basically this little brain, this little thing about this big that mounts anywhere on your harness or your deck, and it measures everything, up, down, forward, back, airspeed, not airspeed, but ground speed, but it doesn't have a display. And so what you do is you Bluetooth connect it to your phone or a tablet, and there's software that's free, or some of it's free anyway, that will allow you to see everything that XC Tracer has to say. So that is a very, very cool option. It's not necessarily the first one you need to get, but it may very well be the last one.
It looks pretty slick, and I've heard some really good things about that, and I may go that direction myself.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you can connect it to a like a tablet. What they're using is the like the Kindle reader, and the color reader. It looks really good. I'm impressed. There's a couple guys that are flying with them, and I was kind of waiting for them to work out the kinks so that I don't have to come in and redesign the wheel.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can't really see that. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, you can connect it to a Kindle, and you can connect it to a phone. You can connect it to a tablet. It's really pretty cool. You can also do it with a wire, but it's better to do it with Bluetooth. Well, let's keep going with this, and just burn through the rest of these little notes I've got here, and one of the next area here is, where do you learn? And, there aren't a lot of schools, and you want to go to a good school. So that's an issue. It could be that your paramotor instructor is also a paragliding instructor, and that could be a good way to go. It could be that you live in, tow country, like the flatlands, and maybe you need to go to a school where they have a hill, take a vacation somewhere, and then learn the basics, and then come back and do some towing with your buddies. That's an option. I used to teach. I don't teach anymore. But one of the best schools in the country, I would say there's maybe 2 locations in the country, and there's more. There are more than these 2, but these are the 2 that I think are among the best. Salt Lake City and Santa Barbara. And in Salt Lake City, there's Chris Santacroce with Superfly. They have been doing this a very, very long time, and they're full service repair, equipment sales, teaching advanced instruction like maneuvers clinics, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit. They are very, very good. There are other groups in Salt Lake. I think, in my opinion, Superfly may very well be the best. And then in Santa Barbara, there's a couple schools. My personal favorite is Eagle, run by Rob Spohr. Very good school, very good hill. And Rob also sets up maneuvers clinics, and he also does tours in various places around the world, as does Chris, the Superfly. That's what's good about these operations. They don't just give you a P2 and send you on your way. They have courses that take you to remote parts of the world, like Turkey and Europe and South America and Mexico, to expose you to new locations and teach you cross-country flying. And it is so much fun. And you're going to be in the course with other people who are doing the same thing. So much fun. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to teach yourself. You know, it's tempting. It's tempting. You might have a hill nearby that you think you want to jump off and whatnot. And do not teach yourself. And you may have friends who know how to paraglide, and maybe they want to teach you, and you figure you can save a few bucks. But you know, you don't know what you don't know, and they don't know what they don't know. And you're going to be so much safer if you sign up. The transition should be relatively inexpensive, especially if you're a good ground handler. You know, if you ground handle well, it's going to be quick. It's mostly about knowledge, and you can go there, and before you go, you brush up on your ground handling. You read that book, The Art of Paragliding, and you show up and you hit the ground running, and you know they're going to be able to knock out that transition for you in short order. So let's see. As far as what happens after you get your P2, yes, I mentioned a few things like trips. You can travel around the world, and you can go on some of these guided tours. And the guided tours are absolute gold. They are wonderful experiences. And even after you learn, you will make friends with all these people, and you will keep coming back to these excursions and safaris and go with them again. And because they are just so much fun. They're not outrageously expensive either. And they're completely worth it. They will absolutely change your life. The other life-changing thing will be the maneuvers or the throwdown session, as some people like to call it. And it's sometimes referred to as the SIV. But anyway, basically you get towed up by a boat over a lake, and you're wearing a life jacket, and you got a instructor on the radio in your ear, and you go and you rip your wing down out of the sky again and again until you're laughing instead of crying. And it's and that will really improve your flying for both paragliding and powered paragliding. As far as where you can travel, you know, I love flying in the Alps, and you can spend the rest of your life trying to fly all those spots. But there's South America and Mexico and Canada and Australia, New Zealand, Nepal. It just goes on and on and on. You just won't live long enough to fly at all. Questions?
Yeah, I love it. We're at the there's a couple questions in the chat. We're at the half an hour mark. I want to give something away. So while you're thinking about your questions for Mr. Russman, maybe put those in the chat right now. And we're going to give away the last Toe Pro.
Oh,
the last Toe Pro for now, anyways.
Goody, the last one.
Yeah, I think I think people are Toe Pro'd out. I did get a random guy that asked me where can they get one, and I said, I'll just send you one. And so now I'm down to one. It's not mine, but it's the last one I got to give away. You want to spin the wheel of magic?
Absolutely. Here we go. We're gonna share this screen here. You can see this lovely wheel of plume, correct? Can you see the wheel of plume? All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Here we go. We're spinning. This is everybody's name that was in there that's been in the chat. And Slow Days. Congratulations.
Congratulations, John.
Kathy Bailey was about to win one there for him. I was like, oh, that's right on the. I know it was right on the line. Slow Days. Yeah. Congratulations, man.
John Slow Days. I feel like he already won a Toe Pro too.
He's won something. Might have been a shirt.
Yeah, maybe a shirt. Congratulations, winner, chicken dinner. You win a Toe Pro. I do want to encourage you guys to go and check out lighttouchfilms.com and take a look at some of these things that that Russman was talking about. He's got a really nice organized website. I love how convenient it is to scroll through and look at stuff. And speaking of websites, paraorangeproducts.com is a great website. You should go check that out as well. Larry, what do you got for us tonight? I know you got something to share.
Actually, I do, but we're a little behind schedule because of all the activities we were involved with. But I will tell you that in the next week or so, we will be releasing something that's been in the works for almost a year, a waterproof cover for foot launch machines. We actually did some photographs at the memorial for Mike McGuire, and we have completed it. It has come out dynamite. We did have to do a redesign. It'll be out within the next 2 weeks. And this is a completely 100%, if you use it correctly, waterproof cover. Did I lose everybody?
No, you're here.
Oh, okay. I went
Phil's sharing his screen.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what happened. All right.
I'm sorry if I screwed you up here. Let me just stop.
No, it's okay, yeah. Phil. I didn't know if my machine did something. We're all new to Zoom.
Yeah.
But we do have the new cover out, and it is completely waterproof, 100%, if it's used correctly. And this is for foot launch pilots. This is for the pilot who's going to drive from one end of the country to the other through snow, sleet, and rain, and does not want their machine to get wet. And it is really put together well. All the seams are five process seams. It's waterproof. It's been soap tested, rain tested, and it's ready for delivery. So we really put a lot into this. The first design, which was I thought was going to be great. Unfortunately, it ended up weighing about 40 pounds and just be impossible to use. So we had to source other type of fabrics, but we've put it through the testing. Everything came out 100%. So you'll see that on our website within about 2 weeks, if not sooner.
You got a name for that piece? That's the big
thing that we're excited about right now. And I got my machine. I did get my new machine. So I should be in the air shortly.
Oh, good.
Congratulations.
That's great, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. And that's also a new product.
Got that new machine smell?
New version. Excuse me?
Did you get that new machine smell?
Oh, yeah. It's like the new wing smell, you know?
Yeah.
It's like that, you know, it's that smell. But this is also a new product that will be on our website. It's the double ring cage. And I can't wait to get it up in the air. It's pretty exciting. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we're going on vacation. So everything goes on the back burner right now. You know who wears the pants in this house.
Chris.
The lovely bag lady.
The bag lady.
We'll call her Princess.
Yes.
Princess Chris. He calls her the bag lady.
Bag lady.
It's hilarious.
I can't say what I call her. It cost me $10. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, on those
Better
big
watch out.
on those big bags, though, you could always put bag lady surprise on the outside of it. So when it's covering everything up, you know, it's the bag lady surprise inside.
I'll let her know about that, Sean.
I think it's a wonderful idea. People would buy that like crazy.
Russman, you've got some serious years under your belt of flying. How is it that you've stayed safe all these years? What do you think that you're doing that's different than some of these other characters?
Not telling you about all the times I got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been hurt. I've been hurt. I got hurt hang gliding when I was 18, and I more recently got hurt. Got hit by an RC at Torrey Pines. Remember that story?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a story for another day. But I think what you're getting to is what's going to keep us safe. What's the procedure?
Longevity.
How do we become an old pilot instead of a bold pilot? And there have been a lot of videos out there recently about this, and a lot of people talking, because unfortunately there's been a lot to talk about. People getting hurt and killed, and not
listen,
good.
I've only been in the sport for two years and some change now. This is, from everybody I'm talking to, this is one of the most, I mean, there's been so many injuries and accidents and deaths this season. Do you have any comment on what you think's going on or why?
I don't know why it's increasing, if that's what you're asking. I don't really know what's going on. I think, people maybe are just getting too confident. Things are getting too easy. The gear is getting too good. People are looking too good on YouTube and making it look too easy. And you're chasing after the guy that's flying a little bit further and faster and higher than you. I don't know. Maybe it's the social media thing. I don't know but it does seem to be increasing. It could be because more people are hearing about the sports and getting into it.
Yeah, it could be volume. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. The numbers, the numbers have went up since the beginning. I mean, I know back in the day, Phil, you did hang gliding, right? Back in the very, very early beginnings of hang gliding, really. Right when they started working with paragliding wings. And I mean, cells were huge. They were stinking massive. It's amazing that people got them to fly as well as they did. But I think a lot of it has to do with the volume of people. It's like we had a big surge of people learning and grasping an idea, and then pilot errors, bad days, windy, 20 mile an hour gusts, and you're flying low to the ground, things like that. Could be cockiness too, not being humble, knowing that this wing can kill you. If you make mistakes, it will kill you.
I think, Robert, the question that Robert asked is an interesting one, not about what can we do to be more safe, which is what I thought he was asking, but he asked, why are we getting the increase now? Why are things ramping up? And I think it is a really good question to ask. And we're coming up with some ideas about volume and whatnot, but I think that people are getting into the sport and they are not necessarily getting a good scare session with their instructor or some mentor that's going to keep them safe. They're seeing all the glory and all the good stuff, and if they know about the risks, maybe they're just not emphasized enough. You think that might be going on? People are getting sold on the idea of getting into the sport, and then once they're into the sport, they're getting sold on the idea of just really ramping it up. This young lady that lost her life in Belgium, I don't know that we'll know exactly whatever really happened, but apparently she passed out or somehow for some reason lost control of an aircraft that was working okay in a spiral. And you know, spirals are a great tool, and something that, you know, I think that it's great to learn, very handy, lots of fun, but there's no reason to have a spiral be dangerous. And I don't really understand why that turned out so badly.
That is a great topic. Great topic, spirals.
Kathy Bailey stated in the chat that she believed that they were saying that she had a brain aneurysm mid-flight and that she had been having headaches all day before that flight. So it's a possibility.
That's what the autopsy found out.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, my condolences and my apologies for not, being informed.
That's all right. There's so much information that has been spilled on us the last few weeks.
That was another thing. People. Yeah, that was another thing that Kathy said. The sport's been around for a while, but social media is pretty new, and the information age where we can find out, someone can crash at a fly-in and instantly that message is perpetuated over the whole country and the world in a click. And so we're hearing more, and we're being notified of more because it's such a shocking event when somebody gets hurt or passes away or whatever. So I think the reporting aspect of it is much more. So we're having an exponential growth of the sport, and then we're also having this message perpetuated. So here's the main thing that I'm taking away from this. We're flying aircraft. It's a dangerous sport, and I'm just going to say straight up, it's not for everyone. This is not a sport that's just cookie cutter for everyone. I remember Russman, I first called him on the phone and he asked me the question. He said, "What do you want to do?" And I was dead set. I want to get a powered paramotor and I want to fly powered paramotor. And in the conversation, he says, he goes, "It's either on or off." And I think Russman could tell that I had the light switch was in the on position for me. But he said, "There's no wrong choice." But he says, "I think you're going to like free flight." And I didn't believe him at first. And I was like, "Nah, get out of here. I'm powered paramotor. I want to power." And but he was right. I became absolutely infatuated with free flight. There's a lot of things that are involved when it comes to flying aircraft. You go from this two-dimensional world where we're just boots on the ground, we go through life, and everything is two-dimensional. But now you open up this three-dimensional thing. That's what we get hooked on, right? That's what we get attached to. The question is, where do you find yourself? Like, you've got to just completely give yourself to this. You can't be thinking about other things. You can't be, meandering in your thoughts when you're active piloting, especially for free flight guys. I want to go back to the topic that we were, you mentioned spirals, and we had a little tiny blip of a conversation before we were interrupted when we were at Blossom the other day, and we talked something about spiraling. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit before we wrap up?
Oh boy, I'm not really sure what we were talking about in regards to spirals.
Just the same statement that you made earlier, and you said they don't need to be dangerous. And what I'm gathering is that people are getting locked into spirals. And I don't know if you want to touch on that. And obviously, you don't want to just go out without being on radio over a lake with a boat. You know, if you're going to practice spiraling, there is a place for it.
Well, it's not just spiraling though. It's like, you know, because I can go out there and do spirals all day, and I use that, you know, as a matter of course to get, you know, when I need it. So, you know, some people are qualified to do this spiral, some people aren't, etc. But I think you have to fly within your limits. It's so, everything's so, it's a really easy type of flying to do in reality. I fly helicopters, airplanes, hang gliders, paragliders, powered paragliders, etc. The paragliding and the powered paragliding, they're really, you know, once you get in the air, it's really pretty easy. Just pull left to go left, right to go right. Your skill quickly outpaces your knowledge. And it's really easy to get overconfident. It's also easy to get afraid and have fear mess you up. And so of all the types of flying that I've done, I find that although there's psychology involved in all flying, I think in paragliding, there's more psychology than in other kinds of flying, because of the fact that you need to have a really good attitude about, you know, like Clint Eastwood says, a man's got to know his limitations, you know, Dirty Harry, remember that? You got to know your limits, and you got to fly within those limits. And you need to listen to the voice. And this gets into the whole voice of darkness thing that we talked about before.
Yep.
And I can talk about that if you want, if you think that's worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that we can take away that's going to make us safer right now, today.
I got 2 questions on the chat that were really good questions.
Bring them.
Okay, both of these are from Fly Swamper. Yes, what's the most common bad habit / mistake of someone transitioning from paramotoring to paragliding?
Oh, yeah, not leaning forward.
Overconfidence, but let's just, you know, that's a psychological thing, and they're probably talking about technique. And I would say, you know, the ground handling stance, like, I don't know if you can see me on this camera. Can you see me? Do I disappear?
Yeah, you disappear.
Okie dokie. Well, forget that.
Yeah,
you gotta be leaning forward.
Yeah.
Versus standing up straight. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, when you're in the harness, people tend to drive like they're driving the paramotor without weight shifting. You got to weight shift, and you got to, every time you turn, you got to look, lean, and then come in with the brake. So those are the biggest mistakes that people make, and they get over it really pretty quick.
You mentioned weight shift earlier. Why is it so important? And I know the answer to this, but I want to ask it anyways. Why is it so important to weight shift much more on a free flight setup than on a paramotor?
It helps the turn. It helps the glider turn better and more efficiently, in a nutshell. Yeah.
And so if you're a powered paraglider pilot, you're going to find yourself just blipping a throttle and going up. But when it's a matter of your fun can go from 10 seconds of, if I don't find some lift, the fun ends, and you might have a bunch of friends in the air, and your hike may cost you an hour of hiking, and that might be the remainder of the good flying for that day. You want to fly efficient. You want every ounce of whatever you can get out of the glide of that glider. And I'll tell you, it's happened to me many of times, and I'm very chill. I'm very relaxed. But the other day, I knew it was a good flying day. I took a big old bump, and I ended up at the bottom of the hill, and everybody flew for another hour. And I missed the thermal, and I missed the lift, and I was so mad. I told the guys, I said, I was so mad when I landed that I almost flipped the switch and hit the SOS so I could get a helicopter ride back to the top.
What's that other question? You said there were two?
Yes, there were two. The second question there was one from Dirtbird. I can't find that question. So if you got that question,
I'll go look for it right now.
Okay. So in the meantime, Fly Swamper had another question here. He said, Phil talked about active piloting. Would he consider a PPG guy flying low and managing the wing in mildly bumpy air, but still foot dragging as decent active piloting practice?
I think that you'll definitely learn something by doing that. Yeah, but you're kind of it's kind of the tip of the iceberg, really. And you really need to get up in the proper paragliding harness, in the exact wing, in the kind of air to experience the exact dynamics and timing. So it's better than nothing. And maybe it can help you understand the concept, and it's good because, you'll learn, quick motions, and it'll definitely teach you something, but it's not a replacement for getting out there in the gear that you're going to be flying, in the air that you're going to be flying.
Okay.
So I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, that was great.
Interesting question. Very interesting question. I think it's a really good question. In fact, you can also learn a lot about active piloting from ground handling in rough air.
Boom.
Yep. Oh yeah. I found Dirtbird's. Dirtbird's question was, can you ask Phil at the end, what is the danger you mentioned when flying midday with motor, intending to thermal?
With motor intending.
This is a big one. And we won't be able to cover it fast enough, but the end of the really, really short answer is flying a paramotor in the big air is more dangerous than flying in a paragliding harness. Okay. And the reason for that is that there's a few things that all add up to make it significantly more dangerous. Number one, instead of being leaned back and ability to passively weight shift very, very easily, you're more upright. And so you have to go much further over to quickly weight shift and weight each side of the glider versus if you're, lean back like this, you can change your weight shift much more quickly. The other thing is you've got that motor, and that motor is not very close to you, and it's heavy, and so you've got all this angular momentum and this swinging that can start. Okay, and that's not good. You don't want any of that. And if you do get a collapse, there's things to catch the lines on. But even if there was nothing to catch the lines on when you had a collapse, just the setup of the paramotor being more upright and that angular momentum, you're really asking for it if you're going to go up there in a paramotor versus a paraglider. And people do it. and there's a lot of risk, they may fly very, very heavily loaded wings. They may fly reflex wings, and just go into full reflex mode. And I've done this. I did this when we were flying the Morning Glory wave cloud in Australia, that documentary that I did. I think we talked about it, but you're asking for it. And, people will say these reflex wings will not collapse. Well, you can make the wing out of steel. There's nothing between you and that wing but lines. And if the air is coming from the top, that wing is coming down. So there's a lot more to deal with if you're going to have a motor. And there are people braver than me that do it. And I've done it, but I think it's a very dangerous thing to do. You're really racking up the risk. Let's put it that way. And let me just say one more thing, because this is just such a big topic, because some people like to go up in the late afternoon in the glassy thermals of the Midwest, like my friend Paul Lindquist, who's a master at this, and they'll go up to like 3,000 feet, and it's these nice glassy mellow thermals that are and you can stay up for hours with the proper gear and the proper technique. But there's a big difference between that and launching and landing at 12 noon or 1 o'clock in the middle of the day in the summer in the desert. In fact, when you're paragliding, we recommend that people do not land in the middle of the day. Once you launch on a really, really big day, you want to stay up, because coming in for a landing in the middle of the day in a great big in big air situation in the desert with dust devils flying around all over the place, you're way better off thousands of feet above that stuff and wait till it all mellows out before you land, even in a paraglider. So part of what makes paramotoring dangerous is you've got to launch and you got to land. I've had many 8-hour flights, 10-hour flights in the paraglider without the motor, but most people don't have that kind of endurance, either physiologically or in their equipment can't stay in the air that long. So anyway, that's
a long time to be in the air.
Yeah, don't fly those paramotors in the middle of the day unless you really know about understand the risk that you're taking on, and be careful.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get this. They get this idea that it's bumpy, it's crazy, and I need to get down. And I'm talking about free flight. I've been there before. I launched at Blossom at like 1 o'clock. And it was a post-frontal day. It was a really nice day, puffy clouds everywhere. And I got spooked. And so I went to the valley. I went to the flattest place that I could find. And I ended up landing, and that landing was tricky. I consider myself to be pretty competent when it comes to coming in for a landing. And it worked every second to the ground to not have the wing get away from me and not have a really hard landing. And I mean, to each his own. You could try it if you want, but I think longevity.
I just want to say one more thing about this whole staying up in the air till things calm down. There's obvious exceptions to this. That's why this topic is so huge. It's a whole hour minimum. But if the weather's getting bad, obviously, thunderstorms, lightning, gust fronts, all that, you've got to get away from that, whether that means flying away from it or getting down on the ground or some combination thereof. So obviously you can't just wait until, the Dorian hurricane passes or whatever. You got to get on the ground or get away from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You ever been caught in a gust front?
No, but I've landed close enough to having the gust front come through that I really have a very, very big respect for those darn gust fronts, and I don't want any part of them. And in fact, on my previous trip, I have some great video of what it looks like, what a gust front looks like, hail, wind. I mean, basically, you would just be mincemeat, just mincemeat.
You were going to show us a little clip of your last trip to Europe. Can you pull that up for us and just give us a bit of?
Let me see if I can do this. What, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so basically this is on approach to landing on Mont Blanc. And I just thought I'd just show this image because it's kind of cool here. We're actually, we actually happen to be in the right place at the right time, and it's only done every like 5 or 6 or 7 years now, because of various issues. They're not going to do it. They're not going to let anybody do it anymore. But this is on approach to this great big mountain. I'm going to just jump around here and show you maybe just a couple more images of just, we crossed this valley here from here and flew over to this side of the valley. And now we are basically going up to land right there. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where we're going, and we have to fly over into the Italian side, over the edge here. Well, actually, you can't really see where we're going, but anyway. So I'm just going to. I know we're out of time, so I'm just going to zip forward on some of these images here and show you.
You're fine. Take your time.
This is the top of the mountain. That's 15.8, I think, close to 16,000 feet. We are, and this is actually, I'm actually ahead of this guy. I'm the glider that's ahead, and this is my buddy that's taking the video. And this is the mountain that we're going to land on. And I'm just going to try and show you, let's see. So there's me coming in for a landing, and here's my buddy who's also circling in.
What a trip.
And we are getting ready to land on, I don't know if you guys can see this video here, but
yep.
This is, and there's me coming in on the top right there. And there's some mountain climbers there. I was actually the second person to land that day. Those guys that are there are actually people who climbed the mountain.
Oh, wow.
So I landed right there, right on the edge of this mountain. And can you guys see this? And so now my buddy actually overshot. So he's whipping around here and hoping he's got enough energy in this turn to take him back up over the hill. And he's going to come in, and he's actually going to land kind of low down the hill here, lower than he would have liked, but still good. And he's in, and a little bit of a face plant there. And it's a no winder onto, at 16,000 feet, and
on a hot wing.
Yeah. And there is our other buddy, the third guy to land, or the fourth guy to land. And this is, anyway, I just thought, and then you can
cool.
So that's a shot of me actually landing on Mont Blanc. And the reason I picked this is it's just a very unusual thing to land on Mont Blanc, and very, very few people have ever done it, been lucky enough to be in the right place to do it. And we just happen to be in the right place. So anyway, I just thought you guys would like seeing that. That
is amazing. Now that day had some exceptional things that happened. One, there was, I think it was a record for the most paragliders that had ever landed up there at the same time.
I don't know if it was a record, but I think there were 150 pilots eventually that came up there. And I can show you maybe a little bit about what it looks like. maybe I can show you here.
I could not believe how many people were up there. I saw a couple social media posts that it looked like insanity. So many gliders. Oh yeah, there you go.
This is just a fraction. And you kind of get the idea of what that looks like. And this is actually a launch. So let's just, if you guys want, we can watch this. This is one of our friends who happened to get a very lucky little gust of wind because it was very, very difficult launching in the steep snow and no wind and 16,000 feet. And there's me over on the side, and I did not make this attempt. I missed actually several. But here he goes, and he had a good puff. You could tell he was even able to stop for just a split second to check his wing, and there he goes into the air. And you can see there's a lot of other pilots already in the air. And so anyway.
Was that the day that you guys got a little hypoxic?
I got we were basically hurting for several days after that.
That's wild. 16,000 feet. And you guys spent most of the day at that altitude.
Yeah. And then,
how far did you guys end up flying that day?
Well, not very far, really. But I'm just trying to find a shot that will show you what it looks like from the air, all the pilots on the ground here.
Yeah, I saw a couple videos that popped out right after that day, and I was trying to look for you guys in the images, but it's hard to tell.
Now, what would you say that's like? 16,000 feet all day long. What is going through your mind at that point when you're up there for that long?
I hope I don't have to get a helicopter to get down.
Yeah, look at how many pilots. Well, he glanced over there for a second. I think let's see if he turns around here. Unreal.
Yeah, it's really quite something. And you can see
they're like ants.
You see all those pilots right there? Now he went up to 18,000. I don't know if he's at 18,000 right now. He might be, but look at, I don't know if you can see them, but that's the top of the mountain with a bunch of people.
Oh my God.
All over the top of the mountain.
Looks like I just threw pepper on my screen. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, Russman, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and it's always refreshing to have you come on. I feel like you've inspired the show in many ways. I don't know if you realize that or not, but I talked to you quite a few times about before I even started doing this, and I really appreciate you kind of just saying, yeah, go for it, man. I think it's a great idea. And you gave me a bunch of ideas, and the structure of the show has a lot to do with what you had told me in the beginning. So I really appreciate it. And awesome. If you're here, if you're watching the show, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And I want to encourage everybody to go check out lighttouchfilms.com. There's a link in the description of the website. And all the things that he talked about, we talked about the, is it right for you? Lifestyle, location, flying style, how much it's going to cost, launching, landing, easier, accuracy. He talked about your wings, harness, reserve, variometer, those things. So take a look at his website and feel free to reach out to him if you have questions. I'm sure he won't steer you in the wrong direction. And if you're interested in keeping this show going, you can sign up on Patreon. There's a link in the description for that as well. Support the show for the price of a cup of coffee. You can support something that is going to help you, and possibly even if you're not even watching, you can help someone else fly safer and keep the sport safe for everyone. And it's amazing what can happen if everybody gets on the same page with stuff. And such a cool thing. A lot of great comments, great questions. I see a bunch of new people in the chat. Welcome. So glad that you guys are here. And we're looking forward to having some more really good episodes. Really appreciate Larry. Thank you for coming on tonight. Sean, thanks for hosting and moderating. And
now, Robert, before you close out the show, show your mama the shirt.
Mom wants to see the shirt, and I have to give the big prize away. So this Blossom is my backyard. I should have a shirt that says Blossom is my backyard. The winner of the PPG Smoke contest, Ken Signer. Congratulations, winner, chicken dinner. Ken, you win. Congratulations. It's funny because Ken actually, I just met him in the last episode, and he came on the post show. And so anyways, congratulations. You were randomly selected to win the PPG Smoke. So you get to choose your chase cam, smoke machine, lamels, floats, or the strobe system. And who knows what else he's going to go check out. ppgsmoke.com, all kinds of good stuff on there. And we're going to go to the post show. Thank you so much, guys. And love to see you next week. Check out paraglidingtalk.com and find out what's coming up next. Have a great night. Thanks again, guys. Oh, that's not the right button. We're still. Here we go. Stop live.